I designed the entire interior plan for my place when I had absolutely no experience. And I genuinely thought this would be the easy part. Pick some colors, buy some furniture, add a few lights. How hard could it be? But then I started planning the actual space, and suddenly I had hundreds of decisions to make. One wrong sofa could affect the chairs could affect the rug could affect the entire color scheme. And that's when I realized I had no idea what I was doing. So instead of pretending I knew everything, I decided to figure it out step by step. And by the end, I discovered that designing a beautiful space is actually much less about buying beautiful things and much more about making the right decisions in the right order. So the first thing I had to accept was that I couldn't just open Pinterest, choose one picture, and copy it. Because this is a real space. It has its own size, its own light, its own architecture, and most importantly, it has to work for the way I actually live. So I started with the things that were already there, the existing materials, the flooring, the walls, the elements that were already giving this place some personality, and then I made my first big decision. The color.
And this is where I almost made things very complicated, because when you're choosing things individually, everything can look beautiful.
Phrase. You see a gorgeous green chair, then a beautiful blue sofa, then a warm rug, and you think, I love all of these.
But loving every piece individually doesn't mean they're going to look good together. So I stopped asking, what do I like? And started asking, what is this room already telling me? But what colors were already dominating the space? What materials were already adding warmth? Once I looked at the room as one complete picture, the choices started becoming easier. At least, I thought they would. Then came the furniture. And honestly, this is where I completely understood why interior design is not as easy as it looks. Because choosing a chair is not just choosing a chair. Is it too modern? Is it too traditional? Does it look too heavy? Does it have too many legs? Wait, can furniture have too many legs? Apparently yes, because I started learning about something called visual weight. And suddenly I couldn't unsee it. A room full of thin, delicate furniture can start feeling busy and unstable. But a room filled with big, solid furniture can feel heavy and crowded. So now every piece had to balance another piece. And that completely changed the way I looked at furniture. I wasn't decorating anymore, I was solving a puzzle. For example, if one piece in the room felt visually heavy and grounded, I needed something lighter to balance it. If one piece was old and full of character, maybe something simple and modern would make it stand out even more. And this was probably my biggest discovery. Everything does not need to match. In fact, when everything matches perfectly, sometimes the room can start looking a little too predictable. The interesting spaces are the ones that have contrast. Old with new. Smooth with textured, heavy with light, simple with something full of personality. And once I understood that, I finally felt ready to make some decisions. Until I got to the rug. I thought choosing a rug would be easy. Because suddenly, the question wasn't just, which rug looks nice? It was, how big should it be? What color should it be? Should it blend in? Should it stand out? And then I realized something important. The rug isn't there just to fill an empty floor. It actually helps define the entire space. It connects the furniture. It creates a zone. But it also has to respect the way you move through the room. And this is where designing on a screen and designing in real life became very different. Something could look perfect in my head, but when I imagined actually living in the space, it simply didn't make sense. And honestly, that became the biggest lesson of this entire process. A beautiful home doesn't happen because you make one perfect decision after another. You question things, you change your mind, you make mistakes. You look at something and realize, okay, this looked much better in my head. And that's exactly how I learned, not by knowing everything from the beginning, but by making decisions, understanding why some of them worked and why others didn't. And somewhere during this entire process, I realized that I wasn't just designing a space anymore. I was actually learning how interior design works. So yes, I designed this interior plan for my place when I had no experience. I started with hundreds of questions and honestly, very few answers. But through this process, I learned how colors work together. I learned why furniture can look beautiful individually, but feel completely wrong together. I learned about balance, visual weight, contrast, circulation, and how to actually make a space feel connected. And now I have something I didn't have when I started. Experience. Not just the experience of creating one interior, but the experience of understanding the mistakes, the confusion, and the decisions that go into creating a beautiful home. And that's exactly what I want to share with you on this channel. Because if you're trying to design your own home and you're feeling overwhelmed right now, I've been there. So instead of spending weeks making the same mistakes and questioning every single decision, let's learn these interior design principles together. Subscribe, because in the next videos, I'm gonna share everything I learned and break down interior design in a simple, practical way so you can create a home that doesn't just look beautiful, but actually works. And if there's one part of your home you're struggling to design right now, tell me your biggest interior design problem, because that might be exactly what I explain in my next video. Comment below.